Arsenal legend Jordan Nobbs has completed a transfer to Aston Villa. Let's talk. We're only 5 days into this transfer window, but it is looking to be like it's going to be one, a very, very busy transfer window, but two, a ton of transfers that maybe a lot of fans don't want to see happen will be happening. We start off with a bang with the confirmed transfer of Beth England. We obviously knew that was going to happen prior to the window actually opening, and today we're being hit with a massive one, Jordan Nobbs leaving Arsenal after 12 years to go to Aston Villa. Now this transfer window does have a big cloud over it, and that cloud speaks game time and World Cup squad. 50% of the transfers that will happen have some kind of World Cup motivation to have more game time, get into a rhythm, and ultimately be chosen for the World Cup. Once Jonas Eidevall came into the Arsenal squad after replacing Joe Montenegro last season, it was obvious that there's some players not necessarily fell out of favor, but players that did not fit the system that he wanted to play. And unfortunately, this is a very common thing in football, is that when a new manager comes in, ultimately they're dealing with a set of players that they didn't necessarily choose. They're given a squad that, sure, obviously they reviewed and knew that they were going to work well with that squad, but they didn't have that full free freedom of building that squad together. And once there's a window where you kind of get to see the vision of that coach, you get to see some of the players that he favors and wants to play in the positions that he sees best fit. And I think this is exactly the case with Jordan Nobbs and Jonas Eidevall. Now, this is obviously not to say that he is one of the best coaches in the game. He is undoubtedly proved to be a top-notch manager, but it's just things like that in football just happen, and it's part of the game. Jordan Nobbs joined the Arsenal back in 2010 from Sunderland and played her first game for them in August of 2010. At only 17 years old, she had won multiple individual accolades, including the FA Young Player of the Year award. And when joining Arsenal, went straight into the first team and was involved and pretty much started every single Champions League game. In fact, made her debut for Arsenal in the Champions League. The next 10 to 12 years were beautiful history between Arsenal and Jordan Nobbs, as she won over 12 major trophies with them, featured over 270 times, and scored over 81 goals. In fact, Jordan Nobbs featured in Arsenal's first WSL fixture and 200th WSL fixture. And she also went on to score Arsenal's 250th goal in that 200th game. I mean, if that is not legendary numbers and status, I don't know what is. The biggest plot twist, or the biggest change, of course, of her career was before Jonas came in, and it was unfortunately her sustaining an ACL rupture in the 2018-2019 season against Everton, which ultimately led her to miss out on the 2019 World Cup, which is a big, big disappointment for any player. Just under 300 days later, in April of 2020, she made her return from the ACL injury and also signed a new contract around that time. And then in the preseason of the new season kicking off, she had torn some ligaments in her ankle in a preseason game against Chelsea and had to be sidelined for a little bit as well. When Jonas Eidevall came in the 21-22 season, she only made 13 WSL appearances, which for Jordan Nobbs' name, that's way beyond par. And understandably, there was a conversation about making sure she's back fit, making sure her fitness levels are safe, and she's not in a position where if she steps on the pitch, she might hurt herself. But even with that conversation in mind, there was a lot of games where, let's say, Arsenal had already been winning 4 or 5-0 up. There was 20-25 minutes left of the game, and Jordan still would not make an appearance on there. And so even though it was kind of quote-unquote easy minutes, she was still unfortunately not able to rack on. She has made multiple great appearances, she has made multiple starts, and she has scored absolute worldies, because if you know Jordan Nobbs, you know how much he loves to score a worldie. Even with Arsenal's taking in consideration the current injury crisis, Jordan Nobbs is not getting the amount of minutes that are sufficient enough to really guarantee her a spot in the World Cup squad. Also, want to quickly say is that getting game time or getting consistent starts doesn't necessarily mean you are guaranteed a spot in the World Cup squad. You obviously need to perform, you obviously want to be on form, but to put yourself in a position to have consistency and to go on form, you need consistent game time. So I'm not saying that definitely gives you like a golden ticket to be in the World Cup squad, no, but it heavily increases your chances of being chosen. And I think for Aston Villa, this is an impeccable signing. And honestly, I cannot wait to see her ball with Kenza Dali and Rachel Daly with that Villa team. Carla Ward has consistently been one of the most underrated coaches, and you can go back to my videos and see how good I have spoken about her, because she is a young manager who knows how to grow her players. You look at her squad and she has a great balance between experienced veterans, but also young players that have a ton of potential that have been put under her to grow. We also have a few amount of loanee players, including Anna Pattern from Arsenal. We saw a very similar trend to this last year, even when Jill Scott moved from Manchester City to Aston Villa, not only to get game time, but also want to get herself into that Euro squad. And I want to say this is a deja vu moment with Jordan Nobbs wanting to get minutes and wanting to get into that international squad. And if you look at the outcome, Jill Scott made it into that Euro squad. Had she maybe stayed at Manchester City and not got those minutes, who would have known if she made it into the squad? And so for Jordan Nobbs, this kind of does make sense. Why would she not go work with a manager who is young, is aware how to develop players, and has a good record working with veterans? Why would she not go work with a club who has ambitions and has shown to want to spend on players in the summer window and also currently now with her in the January window? So from a Nobbs perspective, this absolutely makes sense. And it's not like she's going to a North London club or she's not going to a rival club that's nicking off points from Arsenal winning the league. I mean, anything can happen in that second fixture, but she's going to get game time. She's going to be surrounded by pretty good developed players. She's also going to probably be given kind of a leadership role, just like Rachel Corsie. She's going to fit in well. Now, this is not to go out without saying this obviously hurt her. She had to make this move really for her international career. Otherwise, I think she probably would have retired at Arsenal if she had the chance to. You think of her, she bleeds Arsenal. I mean, hell, if you're able to go to her Twitter right now and look at her pinned tweets, unless she changed it, you just see the amount of gratitude and loyalty she has for that club. Her work rate is going to be crucial. That is something that still makes her unique to this day. Her ability to cover so much space in that midfield, connecting passes. She can be defensive minded when she wants to be, but she can also move the ball forward. She can attack. She can shift that momentum. She can score bangers as well. This is why Nobbs is one of my favorite players. I mean, given the name of the channel as well, I appreciate players who can strike one from very far. Yes, she struggled to stay fit. She struggled with her fitness, but I really hope those issues don't persist at Aston Villa. This was also reported to be £39,000, which for Jordan Nobbs is an absolute bargain, I think. He is such an experienced player, and for Aston Villa to be able to nick a player like her for just under 40k is a deal. But I want to hear your thoughts on this. I want to hear your thoughts on Jordan Nobbs, Aston Villa, Arsenal. How do you foresee the future for those three parties? If you want to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. I will see you later.